Alright, so let's start this from the top. The island. No better place to begin a story. A world fruitful yet unforgiving, inviting yet terrifying. One wrong step and you're the lunch of an opportunistic predator. Animals small and massive are sprawled throughout its lands and seas. From the egg-thieving claws of the oviraptor, the swinging sweet songs of the basilosaurus, to the flesh-dripping jaws of a carcharodontosaurus. And do not forget the alpha level guardians that stand in the way of our ascension. The broodmother with her barrage of toxic spitballs and horde of Iranios. The Megapithecus with its temper tantrum Hulk smashes and its love of throwing massive boulders. The dragon with their scorching fire breath and hobby of flying away from me. And finally the overseer, with its stunning laser beams and constantly staying in its shield, summoning so many units. Oh my gosh, stop it! Why betray me, specimen implant? My name is Wally, a lone survivor fighting to thrive within this land, and I only have up to 100 days to conquer it. I have to fight against the odds, overcome the challenges, and climb to ascension. This is my rising, lookout world, and without further ado, enjoy. Day 1. I was incorrectly spawned by the eastern swamp, but I tried my best to survive as long as I could in the area, until some bugs and compies killed me, already proving how unforgiving this world can be from even the smallest of creatures. But round 2, I correctly spawned at West Zone 1, and my video corrupted. Damn element corruption. To recap the lost footage with a little animation, I collected the resources around me to make basic tools and berries for food. I noticed a small pack of piggos as I was running around, whose thieving tendencies I exploited to tame them to be my friends. As the element corruption receded off my video, I climbed the hillside up to Weathertop, yes that's the official name of the area, and started to construct a thatch base overlooking the east side of the Footpaw Inlet and Peninsula. As I finished constructing a small thatch box house, I took the piggos for protection as I scouted my area. Almost immediately, I was set on by 2 raptors from the shadows, causing me to flee as my piggos went on the defense. They were able to take on and kill one raptor as a second one had chased me to my base. With my small stockpile of resources, I made a bowler, went out of my base and aimed true with it against the raptor, trapping it. I used my spears to finish it off. Sadly, this battle lost 2 of my piggos, however one survived to fight another day. With my fighting power weakened, I stayed close to base as I began to harvest resources in the nearby forest. Day 2. I spent the early hours continuing my lumberjacking adventures by cutting down the forest and converting it into wood structures to upgrade my base. While in this process, I got a little thirsty. I decided the quickest way to the water was to jump down the cliff. Yeah, I didn't make it, but I'm not thirsty anymore. I continued on building until a level 100 raptor decided wood was its new diet. Once that was dealt with, I finished up construction, discovered the uselessness of a SS water tank, and turned my sights back to taming. A nice level 16 parasaur became the target of my tranquilization. After a quick taming session, I took it for my first mission to the southern islets, up the southern mountain for our first metal and crystal harvesting run. I used the crystal to craft the beloved spyglass and some soul traps, yay! Once I got back to base, I did some more raptor pest control and moved resources around. Once completed, I built my first refining forge, which I used to smelt some metal to craft my smithy. With it placed down, I was able to craft some oh so very lovely metal tools. Day 3. I set out again to the southern mountain for a more efficient metal and crystal mining expedition. Gladly this went well as I collected a decent stockpile without much issue. Once I was back at base again, I crafted another refining forge and a small stockpile of spark powder to speed along the smelting process. After a short time, I crafted my first crossbow alongside an upgrade station setup, a structure from the Upgrade Station V1.8i mod. I conducted my first test with this structure with upgrading my crossbow, which only then I began to understand the true power I have unlocked. Day 4. I spent some time exploring around the beach harvesting resources. With my stockpile slowly growing, I found and tamed a level 76 parasaur, and next to it was a level 12 lystro I tamed. Further down the beach was a level 108 dimorphodon, which I also tamed up because it was a nice little shoulder pet. Once they were all tamed up safely, I returned back to base and did some small tender loving care to my base, with crafting some standing torches for light and a preserving bin for my perishables. Day 5. I was back to the beach looking for more creatures to tame. I spent part of the morning taming a trike for protection and a few dodos for their eggs to craft an SS hatchery in the future. While in the area, I rode inland up alongside the river and found a Fiamme to tame for its poop for fertilizer. While I was knocking it out, I ran into a little trouble. And once again, my piggo saved me from certain death, while my parasol just stood there, doing nothing. Well, somebody's getting extra kibbles tonight and someone isn't. As I ran around a bit more, I got majorly lucky when I found a fabricator and a purple drop. Quickly, I ran this back to base to place it down. This will quickly propel my progression, as I usually get stuck on finding the resources to craft the fabricator. We set off again to the redwoods, which was adventurous and dangerous. Let's run the montage. And did you notice that? My poor piggo. She will be missed. But anyway, once I got back home after all their mishaps, I released the dodos I had to start egg production. An alpha raptor was lurking nearby, so with a couple of attempts, I lured it off the cliff into the valley below. And on to day 6, I found a Fiamme just outside base, which, easy enough, I tamed up, finally safely. I decided that now was a good time to start the first major multi-day building project, upgrading my base from a small wooden box to a decent sized scenic stone base. The idea was to build a castle, but we'll see how that turns out. While in the process of constructing the foundations, I noticed a level 112 Parasaur somehow walked into my valley below my base. This was a major opportunity for me, so I spent a couple minutes shrinking it down to tame, while having it safely knock out on the far side of the valley. Nice and safe away from the Alpha Raptor. Speaking of the Alpha Raptor, it was doing its best to consume a corpse, but of course we all know how that works. With my crossbow, I quickly dispatched it, and now my valley is safe again. And before the clock struck midnight, my Parasaur finally tamed up and I rode it safely to base. Day 7. With my new behemoth power of mount, I took the Parasaur out for a big knuckleberry farm to boost my narcotic supply, since I'd basically drained it all on taming it. As I got that all sorted and restocked on my trank areas, I set out on an adventure to the Redwood Mountains, in an attempt to find a high-level Argentavis. While exploring the location, I found a max level 112 Stegosaurus with a pack on the mountain, which of course I knocked out. I had to protect it from a Rex during the taming process, and it finished up taming just before midnight. On to day 8, I continued on towards the nearby beaver dams in the river for their cementing base, as I required them for the mid-game structures. From there, I ran over to Metal Mountain to continue the hunt for an Argentavis, which was successful as we found a level 60, which gladly I safely tranked up and tamed. With our mission complete, I began the trek home. To run a small montage, I easily dispatched an Alpha Raptor that was lurking around, and knocked out and tamed a level 72 Anki, which didn't take too long. Going into day 9, we found and tamed a level 88 Gigantopithecus just for the fun of it. And as we were almost home, I found an industrial cooker and a yellow drop. Very nice, that'll help me a lot. Now back at base, I cleared up my inventory and started the narcotic and metal smelting. Wanting to get an RG saddle for my new bird, I ran around the swamp and redwoods on foot for about 50 minutes looking for good keratin and chitin creatures to kill. Along the way, I came across something amazing, a level 108 Dodocaris. Doed tamed up with average stats, but will greatly help towards base construction. Along the way through the redwoods, I killed a couple more bugs to get the last chitin I required for the RG Sable, and finally I was airborne. Within the first minute of flight however, and that absolutely scared the hell out of me, so I quickly left the redwoods. With my newfound power of flight, I went for a metal run at the southern mountains and started my forges smelting again. I used the Doed to mine the nearby rocks around my base and spent most of the day till the evening crafting stone structures. Looking around for beaver dams on day 11, I made another major discovery. 2 allosaurs had spawned stuck inside of each other, one of them being a max level 120. As they were unable to move, I was able to knock out both creatures and started taming them. While I was watching over them, I spotted in the swamp nearby a level 100 Baryonyx. Another good tame to actually begin my water exploration, I knocked it out. After keeping a watchful eye over all of them, they all tamed up successfully and I was able to get them home safe. Working from the end of day 11 to day 15, I hit the grind with gathering the resources to craft structures and finish building a major portion of the base, with completing the walls, a veranda around it, an electrical system and an irrigation system for the base. With half the day left and my irrigation system finally set up, I began crafting some medical brews in the industrial cooker and set out on another flight to Metal Mountain. While over there, I spotted a level 112 RG and instantly tranked it out. Things were looking pretty amazing with this find. I left it a tame as I hunted the red drops in the snow biome nearby, and the RG finished up taming without much issue before midnight. I made my way back to my newly tamed Friend on day 16 and saddled it up. This will be our new flying mount for the rest of the series. Wanting to level up my RG and my chibi, I flew over to Carnivore Island looking for alphas to kill and some Rexes to try and start a boss line. My exploration bore fruit as I found an alpha Rex and a level 100 Rex on the island. With a bit of effort, I was able to kill the alpha Rex after a long, grueling fight and tamed up the level 100 Rex. Sadly, it didn't have great stats on the Rex, so more taming will be required. With no further luck of finding creatures on the island, I flew home and sorted out my newly gathered goods. Day 17 and 18 passed by pretty quickly as I completed a couple of trips to the snow biomes for resources, in which I completed my first mass oil and organic polymer grind. Coming into day 19, I decided to begin my first aquatic exploration with my Baryonyx. Quickly I found a level 104 Megalodon swimming in the water nearby, which I tranked out and tamed with ease. I then used the Megalodon to explore a bit further, until some jellyfish managed to stun and severely hurt me. Quickly jumping back onto my Baryonyx for safety, I continued along the west coast, fighting most of the deadly sea creatures within the island's waters till I was low on health again. I returned home not long from there and began to craft a new elevator track for the base. The forges were kept alight with metal for an industrial forge as I began construction on the base's stone ceiling. Kicked myself into the Industrial Revolution on day 20. I crafted the industrial forge and placed it in the corner of my base. I had a backlog of metal in storage which I transferred into the forge to smelt. Then putting on my Bob the Builder pants, I spent half the day finishing construction on the roof with an installed elevator track to go with it. It was now time to move my creatures from the dangers of the ground to the safety of the roof above. With this new safety area, I went around the nearby beaches searching for tech parasaurs to tame. Ending day 20 and into day 21, I took flight looking for more beaver dams for more cementing paste. During this, I found a nice little beaver over in Hidden Lake, and with a little bit of effort, I tamed it up. While on my way home from my expedition, I came across a level 116 Dodocaris. To skip the semantics, the taming process was painful, with transporting it to the Redwood Mountains, getting attacked by saber-tooths, one of which was level 96, and then a level 96 Rex showing up. I was able to knock out and tame the Rex up, but the saber-tooths either died or despawned during the event, so I took the Dodocaris home and let it heal sufficiently so I could knock it out to tame. The water was calling to me on day 22 as I dove back in to explore it. I found a nice little anglerfish nearby, which I knocked out because I needed silica pearls. During this I noticed the Doed I had been working on had finally knocked out and was safely at home. As the anglerfish finally tamed up, I swam back home collecting silica pearls along the way. With the Doed already starved from me being away, I was able to quickly tame it up and it had 33 points into melee. Very impressive. With the rest of my evening, I knew I needed to work on making kibble, so I started construction on the greenhouse. And there we are, it is done on day 23. It took a little finessing, working out lining up the irrigation to the greenhouse, but I was able to get it sorted and make it look nice and pretty. Set up some compost bins along the cliffside ridge just below the farm and planted my first crops not long after. I had heard so much about a Beelzebufo's ability to make cementing paste out of bugs. I quickly ran to the swamp nearby to tame one up. Once that was finished up, I wanted to go find a Thylacoleo, so I flew into the redwoods. Surprisingly, I found a level 108 there. With a little chase around, I was able to knock it out in the West River. Only then I realised, from Dodo Dex, it prefers cooked meat.
Cook's actually better?
I ran home to get some cooked prime meat and hurried back on day 24. I was able to feed and tame up my new Thylacoleo. From here, I spent most of the day looking around for saber-tooths and megatheriums to tame. However, after all that time, I couldn't find any good ones. At the end of the day, I found an Alpha Carnotaurus that had spawned with a Yudi in the snow. With a somewhat lengthy battle, I was able to kill the Alpha Carnotaurus into the early hours of day 25. Some minutes later, I was able to find a great level 108 Yudi. With a little effort using the net projectiles for the first time, I was able to capture and track down this mighty beast. While it was taming, I flew around and found a Cryolophosaurus from the Ark Additions mod. Unsure how to tame them, I tried my luck, but was instantly knocked out with a trank spit and killed. I flew back on another RG and saved the main guy and retrieved my body, but sadly I lost my Dimorph. During all these fun events, the Yudi had finally tamed up, so I went and collected it. Surprisingly, it had 33 points into health, which was amazing. I just need to find a good melee and stat partner to breed with. Fast peak before midnight, I was able to catch my first glimpse of one of the most powerful creatures on the island, level 116 Carcharodontosaurus. I kept a strong mental note of this creature. I needed to start my preparations. It was the luck of the survivor on day 26, as north of Metal Mountain I was able to find a max level 120 Uteranus. Perfect to start breeding with the one I'd acquired yesterday. I went and killed everything around it. I was able to trank it out with the help of net projectiles. I kept it safe as it finally tamed up on the mountainside with a great melee stat, perfect for breeding. I flew back home and started mating my Udis for an egg, and I worked on getting an SS Nanny crafted and powered with the honey to imprint the baby. I also found and tamed another beaver nearby, which I left to tame while I went metal harvesting for resources for a chemistry bench. To win the day off, I made an SS bear barrel to start fermenting beer to power an SS gardener. In the early hours of day 27, I started incubating my Yudi egg. It hatched only after a couple of minutes, but sadly it was a dud as it had the good health stat but the lower melee stat. After a long resource run, which included tabbing a tabby jar I would never leave behind, don't worry about him, I crafted and placed at a chemistry bench. With this I finally started crafting narcotics and other resources at a greater speed and efficiency. To win the day off, I crafted a long neck rifle and upgraded it a little in the upgrade station. It would be perfect soon enough. On day 28, I crafted and placed the egg incubator. I used this to hatch a couple more Udis while I prepared the tools to trap and tame the Karkar. Once finished, I flew over to Fast Peak. Scouting the area, I planned and set up my trap atop the mountain. Carefully, I lured the Karkar into it. But trapped and boxed in, I sacrificed the baby Yuti to feed it. However, the Karkar decided it did not want to play ball and eat. Oh no. I kept trying but moving the baby corpse around, not working. Oh no. I very nervously decided to open the trap up to see if that would work. And it went flying off the mountaintop. Oh no. I chased it down, trying to lure it back. Dude went flying back up the hill without my assistance and finally ate the baby. Oh yes. Docile to me, I took time killing the creatures around that wouldn't harm me for the perfect efficiency. As night began to fall, the beast was mine. However, being at the bottom of the mountain and forgetting my RG back at the top, I had to run all the way back up there, but gladly now with a new bodyguard. I was able to make it to my RG just before the strike of midnight. The morning flight to day 29 was a very fruitful time, with an ascendant long neck found in a yellow drop. Upgrades people, upgrades! Back at base, I got lucky again with a baby Yudi coming out with the best of the both parents. This will become my boss Yudi, who I'll eventually call baby Yudi, alongside Papa Yudi and Mama Yudi. At the time of this, I'd seen the new Puss in Boots movie. Yeah, this video took ages to make. I started working on ammunition and narcotics for my weapons, especially trank darts, as I upgraded the damage of my long neck for more effective torpor. Alongside leveling up my Karkar, I started crafting extraordinary kibble, the best kibble in the game. I usually only craft this as it's easy for me to craft for the farms I've set up. Don't get mad at me for using it on creatures that have lower tier requirements, thank you. Day 30 was spent putting our new kibble to use with taming a Rex, a Ferrozenosaur, and an Equus on the riverside and plains of Fast Peak. The fairy, who I eventually called Phil, was a great find as it became very useful for future resource harvesting ventures. Trademark. Day 31 was spent finishing off a couple more teams before arriving back to base. I then started up my resource harvesting venture, trademark, with killing and harvesting tech parasaur babies for their resources. This is the start of my long and fruitful endeavour, with little optimizations here and there. Alongside this, I bred my saber-tooths and raised their first baby. This will be my first great mount for the caves. I was able to put my saber-tooth to the test on day 32 as I went into the artifact of the Hunter Cave. With a bit of a self-imposed challenge of going the long way inside the cave, I scooped up my first artifact and made my way back home. I continued on with a little bit of a TLC with the base by installing external lights along the veranda. Day 33 started with another adventure around the island, finding and taming a level 100 Rex with a good health stat and an Oviraptor to increase the egg production, mainly just for the Uterannuses because I wanted more kibble. After I had set the Oviraptor back up a base in a trap, I took my anglerfish out to the ocean to get some more silica pearls. It was on this quest that tragedy struck. And just like that, all my gear was at the bottom of the ocean far from land. Not a fun time. I mounted my baryonyx with no gear and made my way back. I dived down to the bottom and died to hypothermia before I could reach the body. I'm an idiot. Day 34. An attempt 2 on the recovery. This was going to be the one. Until I accidentally fell off my RG and plummeted to my death. Okay, attempt 3. I collected my fresh corpse and RG and flew back to my watery grave. With my new equipment and a dough for my mount, I dove back to the bottom. I fought off all the creatures swimming me and was able to obtain my corpse and quickly resurface safely. On my way back to base, I collected another tech parasaur for the horde of breeders and tamed it up. A little later in the day, I remembered a level 104 Spino running around the peninsula, ripe for taming. With a little effort, he was now my good buddy. From the end of day 34 till day 38, I spent much of my time swimming around the oceans on an aquatic exploration spree. Not much drastically happened, but I was fruitful as I tamed the Dunkleosteus and 3 Basilisauruses. I had boosted the highest HP Basilosaurus to 70k HP and made it my main mount, which would be perfect for tanking the Alpha Mosasaurs and Tusos I found and killed later in my exploration. End of my exploration on day 38, I found a Lipleurodon at the west coast of the snow biome. I had some honey surprisingly prepared from trying to tame a Helicoprion. After I made sure the area was safe, I picked up my mount with the Soul Ball, which pacified the Lipleurodon, whom I now made my own. I became a pretty survivor as I sparkled for the next 6 hours, and good loot coming too. Once I arrived back at base, I remembered I had to convert the SS Bear Barrel to the vanilla structure due to the issues of it not working with the mod. So I finally converted it to vanilla and left it to ferment my new bear. Throughout the morning at day 39, I did some more exploration for high level Rexes. I was able to find a couple of them around, but they all had average stats. As the latest Rex I knocked out was in the valley between Volcano and Metal Mountain, I decided to go fight through the first cave to obtain the artifact of the cliff. This was the first of the 3 artifacts I required for the Broodmother boss fight. With little effort from me flying on my RG, I cleared out the dangers and obtained the artifact and made my way back home. At base, I scoured through the Rexes I had tamed up to find the best stats between them. I chose a female with 27 HP points and a male with 24 melee points, and was able to breed them. My first egg struck gold as I got a female with the desired stats of both parents. I hatched up quickly and it came up with a nice bourbon brown colour. Before the day was over, I checked on the bear barrel, which had now finally made beer I could collect. I fed it to my SS Gardener, and finally I was collecting berries and crops automatically. Let's go. In the early hours of day 40, I had a comment from a viewer in my stream to name the Rex after her colour palette, so now I shall call her Lady Bourbon. Once she grew up, I bred her with her father, which gave me a male egg for the same stats. I raised it up, and now I finally had a sync pair of Rexes to build my army. Let's go! I did some more experimentation with the upgrade station, as I initially crafted 19 primitive Rex saddles. However, I realized how inefficient this would be to do individually. So I upgraded one of them to an apprentice with over 100 armor, very nice. Turned it into a blueprint and destroyed the rest of the primitive saddles. I set aside the blueprint and the resources to craft it later on. Day 41. I spent most of the day breeding Rexes for my new army, and I was also breeding tech parasaurs for the slaughter slash. By the end of the day, I had enough resources for 19 apprentice Rex saddles. I reset my stats all into crafting skill and crafted the saddles up nicely. The best one came out with 153.7 armor, bloody amazing. I also upgraded my UD saddle to 59.8 armor for some safety while I was on that. Finishing off the day, I reset my stats back to normal. Day 42 to day 44 was more of the same, as I spent most of my time raising more babies for their respective purposes, if you know what I mean. During the downtime, I tamed a snail in the swamp for extra paste production. I played around with paints on my dinos and crafted more extraordinary kibble, which was great for day 44 as I came across a level 124 Tech Rex on Middle Mountain. I quickly cleared the area and knocked it out and tamed it without incident. Later into the evening, I found a level 80 Alpha Rex on Fast Peak. I fought it for a while, till I stupidly pressed E and jumped off into its jaws like a dumber. With a pocket car in tow, I took another RG back to Fast Peak on day 45. Quickly I was able to collect my corpse and I swept the floor with that Alpha Rex. Good riddance. In the same location were another 2 Rexes, which I tamed up in case they had good stats. Sadly they had no such luck, so back to the trash they go. Hanging around for supply drops later in the day, I came across a level 96 female car on Blue Up Mountain. That was a bloody amazing find, like a pretty mail. Let's go! Collected the supplies and sacrificial tame back at base, and flew back. As the night grew darker and the winds more colder, I finally set the cage up and was able to load the car into it. It was just past midnight at day 46 when I made the sacrifice of my baby Rex to this massive beast. Of course it wouldn't play easy again, so I had to release it to run free. As it sprinted into the forest, as my previous car had done before on the mountain, I feared for a whole 2 minutes it was gone. Oh no. But then it came sprinting out of the forest, back to the corpse, and now docile for me to tame. Let's go! To tame, I accidentally got it stuck in the icebergs while crossing the river, so I had to ghost it out of it being unstuck. I asked for permission first in chat, don't worry. By daybreak, the car was finally tamed up perfectly like its new mate before. Before I left, I spotted a level 96 fairy nearby, would be a good mate for Philly. I knocked it out with ease and began to tame it. As I waited, I bred the carcass together for the first eggs of many. The fairy later tamed up, I flew it back home and bred it with Philly for my first egg. I then spent the rest of the day continuing all my breeding programs. Before midnight, I finally had my Rex army. I equipped them with all my saddles as midnight ticked by, ready to level and power them up later. Day 47 kicked into hot gear with some cave exploration. I required the artifact of the Massive for the Broodmother, however on the way I made a pit stop at the artifact of the Pack Cave first. The cave was trivially easy as I made my way down the tunnels to the underwater lake, where I used a grappling hook to get to the location of the artifact. With it in hand, I quickly made my way back outside just past midnight. Day 48 brought the bounty of the artifact of the Massive. I flew over to the cave entrance and used my saber-tooth to parkour my way around the lava lakes to the prize, not having much issues with the denizens of this cave, gladly. With similar ease with getting to the artifact, it was a quick run back out of the cave as I left for home. On my route back, I spotted a level 108 Alpha Rex on the way, more XP for the chibi. After a pit stop at base, I pocketed my car and set back out. Of course my killing machine, the Alpha Rex, was no match, slaughtered it with ease. Later into the evening, as I was exploring the river around the redwoods, I spotted a level 116 Megatherium. I wasn't really requiring them anymore because I wasn't using them for the Broodmother, but I thought I might as well have it for fun. I knocked out just before midnight and lifted the tame into the early morning of day 49. For the rest of my time of day 49 till day 51, I spent it breeding my dinosaurs, slaughtering them for their resources and XP, which included my Kaka, as my god, they give 4 times the XP of Rexes at least per level. I just found this out, it was amazing! Two noteworthy things I've completed during the downtime included finally pocketing the Tapejara I had left behind all the way back on day 27, and also I scored a double mutation on a Kaka baby with a blue dot pink spike baby. Very pretty. I actually love that, it was good. Day 52 started with a quick half day trip to the aquatic artifact of the Brute Cave. The cave was a bit dicey with swarms of creatures boosted by alpha megs attacking me and my Basilosaurus. Oh, but I fought my way out of it. I spent time collecting all the loot drops and notes around and obtained the artifact. Once I was sure I had collected everything, I made a swift escape because honestly that was close to a watery grave. Now finally the time had come. Back at base, I collected the artifacts and trophies into my inventory. I collected my pocket Rex's annuity and completed some final preparations with medical brews and ammunition, and finally set out for Greenob. Ticking of the clock into midnight of day 53 marked the arrival of us to Greenob. Nearby I spotted a level 108 Spino, which I quickly knocked out. However, I knew at this rate I was just procrastinating the fight in fear of the power of the Alpha Brood Mother. I steeled myself as I prepared my Rexes and UT around the teleport pad. And as I loaded the artifacts and trophies into the terminal, I took a moment to steady myself. And finally, I activated the terminal. Yeah, I had done it. Within a matter of minutes, my army had proven its strength and slayed the Queen of the Spiders. I had her head as a trophy, her banner to display, and a small fortune of elements to use for my newfound knowledge of the futuristic tech structures. I had taken my first major step in rising in this world. Ported back to the familiar ground underneath Green Obelisk, I cleared up the area of my creatures, including my now tamed Spino nearby, and flew my way back to base. To my surprise, my tames had taken less damage than I expected, no doubt thanks to the saddles each of them all had as protection. As I arrived back at base, I cleared up my inventory, admired my element collection, yummy yummy, and placed down my new banner in my base, proud of the accomplishment I achieved. I took just a moment, just a little bit of time to enjoy this. However, I knew there was more to be done. And here I am recording this outro many months later. Thank you guys for watching part 1 of my 2-part story for completing Ark Sea Island within 100 days. I'm so glad this video was able to come together, and I look forward to showing you the rest of the story. Stay tuned for more in the future. This has been Wally, and I'll catch you later.